and welcome back to my channel. I'm Cheryl Lindsay, and I'm coming back to you with another Wednesday wisdom. Of course, you can watch this or listen to this any day of the week, but know that I will be posting Wednesday wisdom during this season of Seeking Wisdom, January 2020. And we'll see if I will continue to do this beyond that. But you can always check back on Wednesdays for my channel if you want to hear some of my thoughts and reflections regarding wisdom. Today I want to read you a passage, begin by reading a passage from Psalm 101. And it begins, "Oh, let me sing about faithful love and justice. I want to sing my praises to you, Lord. I want to study the way of integrity. How long before it gets here? I will walk with a heart of integrity in my own house." And those verses 1 and 2. I was just sort of flipping through the Psalms, looking for inspiration, and came across this passage. And I think what has drawn me to it more than anything is this idea of looking at integrity. You know, your word meaning what you say that it means, what it means to walk in integrity. And the psalmist seems to be rejoicing in God and God's faithfulness and God's integrity, at the same time sort of bemoaning, where is integrity around me? So we think about the times in which we live right now, and a lot of the things that are going on, particularly here in the United States, but I think all around the world. We see this real need to lift up integrity as a value. I think of integrity as commitment to truth, to loyalty, to steadfastness, to faithfulness, doing what you say you're going to do, meaning what you say, practicing what you preach, if you will. Integrity is really a strong value, and I think when we hear passages over and over again throughout the scriptures extolling the faithfulness of God, it's lifting up integrity as a value. And God's faithfulness is not in question, it's not in doubt. Although there are times when we're in the midst of a situation or our life circumstances and things are trying and hard, and it may be a time where we can lament and ask, even now, the question many people are saying, where's God in all of this? Right? When there is the possibility of war, where the planet is burning up, the Amazon, California here in the States, now in Australia, and just calamity after calamity, the earthquakes that barely even get mentioned that are happening in Puerto Rico. I saw I think it was a post on Twitter, a tweet on Twitter about the fact that there have been a series of earthquakes since the latter part of December, and major earthquakes that have been ravaging that island. And literally, I think I can't quote it directly, but she said something to the effect of, the world has been shaking, the earth has been shaking for them now for a couple of weeks. And yet there's so much going on in the world, there's so much chaos in the world that it's hard to keep up with everything that's going on. We very rarely hear what's happening in most of Asia. We very rarely hear what happens in South America, other than a few isolated countries. We very rarely hear what's going on in Africa. And yet the world is more and more connected than it has ever been. And yet, all of these problems that we are confronting, we don't know about, so how can we help one another? How can we be connected in that way? And I think that part of integrity is sort of a care and concern about the conditions of others and the impact on the things that we do, the ways in which we live, our behaviors, even our attitudes, the impact that has on our neighbor. And in this day and age, our neighbor is not just who lives on our street, it's who lives in our world. And I think that question, when the psalmist asks, when the psalmist first says, I want to study the way of integrity, in other words, I want to really dive deep into this and figure this thing out. Then he says, how long before it gets here? And I think that what's drawing me to that is sort of this question in this age is, where is integrity in the world? Where is our common humanity lifting up these principal values in relationship to one another? Because it seems to be in such rare supply, at least in terms of the leadership of governments and peoples around the world. And we see over and over again where the lack of response, the lack of care and concern in responding to these dire situations is leading to further calamity, further destruction and distress upon people and upon creation, God's creation. And so I think that offering any wisdom about that is that this is not a new question, and this seems to be an eternal question of humanity and the human condition. And so what then is our response to that? And the psalmist in that same verse, which is the second verse of Psalm 101, says, I will walk with a heart of integrity in my own house. In other words, I don't know when the world will change. I don't know when the kingdom, the reign and rule of God in the world will come, where God's shalom, God's peace, where everything will be restored as God intended it to be. I don't know when that will arrive. I don't know when integrity will get here. But I will walk in integrity in my own house. It reminds me of that passage that we find in Joshua, where Joshua is declaring, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And the psalmist echoes that same sentiment of, no matter what anyone else is doing, I will walk in integrity. I will choose the greater good. I will choose the right thing, even if it costs me, even if it requires sacrifice, even if it is not the prevailing point of view, perspective, if it's not popular. I'm going to do what I believe to be the right thing in my house, in the sphere of influence that I have. I will walk and I will uplift integrity as a principal value that is a driver in my life. And so this Wednesday wisdom, what I'm taking away from it and sharing with you, is that in a time when so often we can feel powerless because the problems that we confront are so large, they're so much larger than us individually. And even collectively, it seems like our actions coming together are not adequate to the problems that we confront and the needs in front of us. We can still have agency over our own decisions, our attitudes, behaviors, and our beliefs, and how we manifest that in the world. My prayer for all of us is that we will, like the psalmist, declare and commit that within the world in which we live and the world that we touch, that we too will walk in integrity, and that we will shine the light of Christ, the light of God's love in the world. I pray until I see you again, that God will bless you and keep you, that you will encounter moments of integrity, not only that you display and manifest, but that you also see the good news reflected in someone else. It is encouraging to one another that we are not the only ones on this journey, that we are not the only one making those hard choices. But even if you don't, know that the Holy Spirit will lead and guide you, will walk with you and companion with you on this journey. May God bless you and keep you until I see you again the next time.